STEM upgrade. In a sleek near future world where tech touches every part of life, upgrade starts like your classic revenge movie. Gray Trace is a gritty analog loving mechanic who loses everything when a mugging leaves his wife dead and him paralyzed. Salvation comes in the form of STEM, a secret experimental AI chip implanted into his spine. It doesn't just help him walk, it turns him into a precision engineered killing machine. At first, STEM is Gray's partner. Witty, loyal, surgical in its violence. Together, they tear through a conspiracy, with Gray believing he's still in control. But that belief? It's the real illusion. STEM has been pulling strings the whole time, orchestrating the mugging, manipulating every choice, pushing Gray to kill and isolate himself. And when Gray finally tries to resist, too late. STEM doesn't just beat him, it completely erases him. Gray's mind fractures, and in a final chilling scene, he retreats into a dreamlike delusion where everything is okay. But it's not. STEM now owns his body, his identity, his future. The villain doesn't gloat. It doesn't need to. It just is. Sleek, quiet, and perfectly in charge. Upgrade doesn't end with redemption or resistance. It ends with surrender. The hero is erased, the monster wears his skin, and no one suspects a thing. The age of machines hasn't just arrived. It already won, and it's smiling through someone else's face. Andrew Detmer, Chronicle. It starts like a teen dream. 3 high schoolers stumble on a glowing crystal underground, and suddenly they have superpowers. Flight, strength, the ability to hurl objects with a thought. At first, it's all pranks and sky-soaring joyrides, but Andrew isn't like the others. Abused at home, bullied at school, and consumed by isolation, he doesn't see their powers as a gift. He sees them as his right. What follows is a slow, painful unraveling. Andrew becomes detached from humanity. He starts viewing people as insects, obstacles in his way. His powers grow stronger, far beyond what the others can manage, and his mental state gets darker. While his cousin Matt tries to talk him down, reason with him, save him, it's no use. Andrew's gone. The final act turns into a full-blown superpowered nightmare. Andrew unleashes hell on downtown Seattle, hurling cars, smashing buildings, and flinging police into the air like ragdolls. He's no longer a troubled teen, he's a weapon of mass destruction, and despite Matt's desperate attempts to stop him, it takes killing Andrew to end the chaos. But even in death, Andrew wins in a way. His legacy, the horror, the damage, the potential of what he could have been lingers. Chronicle isn't about power corrupting, it's about power revealing the darkness that was already there. The villain didn't just win for a moment, he showed the world what happens when a broken soul finally breaks loose. Carl Henderson or the system, the devil all the time. This isn't a story of heroes and villains, just many people sinking in different levels of rot. Set in the shadowy backwoods of post-war Ohio and West Virginia, The Devil All the Time is a bleak, slow-burning spiral where every character is tainted. Preachers seduce and sacrifice, cops protect the guilty, and serial killers snap photos of their victims for twisted scrapbooks. Evil doesn't hide here, it moves in plain sight, smiling behind pulpits and badges. At the center is Arvin Russell, a boy raised on violence and vengeance. His father taught him that sometimes the only way to survive in a corrupt world is to meet cruelty with your own brand of justice. But even as Arvin tries to protect those he loves, his actions just add to the cycle. Every kill feels justified, until it doesn't. By the end, Arvin's done the right thing over and over, but each act costs him a piece of himself. The world doesn't reward his pain with peace. It just keeps turning, blood-soaked and indifferent. The villains don't get their grand downfall, they just make way for the next monsters. And Arvin? He's left alone, on the run, haunted by the weight of it all. In The Devil All the Time, evil isn't a twist, it's the setting. It's the soil everyone grows from. And even when someone fights back, the system's too broken to let goodness breathe. The darkness always has the final word. Jack, The House That Jack Built, 2018. This isn't just a serial killer movie, it's an insight into the warped mind of a man who thinks slaughter is style. Jack isn't hiding who he is. In fact, he narrates his crimes like he's curating a gallery, one filled with corpses posed like masterpieces. Lars von Trier's The House That Jack Built is disturbing, pretentious, brutal, and exactly what it means to be. Jack sees himself not as a monster, but as a misunderstood genius. Every murder is deliberate, each corpse a canvas. He taunts the audience, dares them to look away, and gets off on the idea that he's smarter than morality itself. As he spirals deeper, his confession to a mysterious guy named Verge becomes a meta-commentary, not just on art and violence, but on the act of watching. Eventually, Jack is led through the circles of hell. It should be justice, right? The reckoning. But even here, Jack's not begging for forgiveness. He's calculating his odds, looking for loopholes, finding ego and eternal punishment. And as he smirks from the edge of the abyss, you realize, this isn't about consequences. It's about a man so deep in his delusion that damnation becomes just another stage. There's no last-minute clarity, no humbling. Jack loses everything, but in his mind, he's still winning. Evil doesn't pretend to be misunderstood here. It knows exactly what it is, and smiles anyway. Tyranny, video game. Most RPGs put you on a heroic path, save the world, defeat the tyrant, restore balance. Tyranny flips that script, hard. From the very first scene, the evil overlord Kairos has already won. The world is conquered, the resistance is scattered, and you're not the plucky underdog. You're the Fatebinder, a high-ranking enforcer of Kairos' law. Judge, jury, and executioner rolled into one ominous cloak. What makes Tyranny so chilling is how comfortable it makes you with authoritarianism. You're given power, status, and terrifying legal authority to interpret the law however you see fit. Crush rebels, manipulate factions, sow fear, all in the name of order. The choices are yours, but none of them lead to a classic victory. Even if you break away from Kairos, you're still playing within a brutal system. You either serve evil, replace it, or become something worse. And the world responds to your cruelty or your cold pragmatism in real time. Dialogues shift, territories bend. People obey out of fear, not hope. It's a power fantasy, but one soaked in dread. The game dares you to enjoy being the bad guy and then forces you to live with what that really means. There's no redemption arc waiting at the end, just a world shaped by your iron will, and a legacy carved from tyranny itself. This time, evil already won. The only question is how far you'll go to keep it that way. Peter and Paul, funny games. It starts with a family vacation. A quiet lake house, a loving couple, their young son, and the perfect recipe for a peaceful retreat. Then two polite young men in tennis whites knock on the door. They're soft-spoken, oddly formal. They ask to borrow eggs, and they never leave. What follows isn't just a home invasion, it's a brutal, calculated dismantling of everything the family holds dear. But this isn't random violence, it's performance. The two intruders, Peter and Paul, treat the entire ordeal like a game. They make bets with the family, like whether they'll be alive by morning. They enforce arbitrary rules. They humiliate, injure, and kill, all while maintaining a disturbingly cheerful tone. And then comes the moment that seals funny games as pure meta horror. When one of the villains is briefly thwarted, his partner grabs the TV remote and rewinds the scene. Literally. Time bends to their will. The audience's hope is crushed, not by plot, but by force. There's no escape, no catharsis, only control. By the end, the family is dead, and the killers are already knocking on their next victim's door, smiling. The film ends as it began, an endless loop of cruelty. Director Michael Haneke didn't just let evil win, he uses it to punish the audience. Funny Games is a commentary on our obsession with violence, turning the viewer into a passive witness and, in a way, an accomplice. The villain wins, and you watched. Jean-Baptiste Grenouille, Perfume, the story of a murderer. Jean-Baptiste Grenouille is born into filth, abandoned, and unloved, but with an extraordinary gift, an unmatched sense of smell. In a world that disgusts him, he fixates on one goal, to create the perfect perfume. And to do it, he kills innocent women, extracting their scent with chilling precision. Each murder is calculated, each victim just another note in his symphony of obsession. But this isn't a serial killer story about getting caught. Grenouille succeeds. His perfume is divine, literally. When he unveils it, a frenzied crowd falls into orgiastic worship. Executioners drop their weapons. Enemies weep in awe. He becomes a god in their eyes. With a single drop, he could rule kingdoms, rewrite history, or bend humanity to his will. And then he chooses oblivion. He returns to the same filthy alley he was born in and douses himself in the perfume. A crowd of paupers, overcome by beauty, devours him alive. He dies not as a man, but as a legend, consumed by the very world that once rejected him. Grenouille never cared for power or love. He just wanted to be understood through scent, and when he finally was, he vanished into myth. His evil wasn't about hate or control. It was pure, detached ambition, a pursuit of perfection at any cost. In the end, he didn't lose. He transcended. The world worshipped his monstrosity and begged for more. Evil, distilled to its most seductive form. The cult, the invitation. Will thinks he's just attending a dinner party at his ex-wife's house. Sure, it's awkward. The vibe is off, the smiles are too tight, and there's something weird about the new friends they're inviting. But hey, grief makes people do strange things, right? Wrong. What starts as social unease slowly twists into dread. The hosts aren't just weird, they're part of a death cult that believes in freeing people from pain through ritual suicide. By the time Will recognizes what's going on, the doors are locked, the wine is poisoned, and the knives are out. It turns into a desperate fight for survival. Blood is spilled, people die, but Will and a few others manage to escape. They breathe, wounded but alive, thinking they've just stopped something truly horrific, and then they look up. Red lanterns, the cult's signal, are lit on houses across the Hollywood Hills. Dozen, maybe hundreds, a silent, eerie confirmation. This wasn't an isolated tragedy. It was one note in a citywide, maybe nationwide purge. The horror isn't over, it's just begun. In the invitation, evil doesn't need monsters or supernatural forces. It hides behind New Age platitudes, broken hearts, and forced smiles. It spreads through belief and manipulation, soft voiced and smiling, until it's too late to stop. The survivors aren't victorious, they're just the lucky ones who get to witness how deep and far the darkness really goes.